Okay, I'm here with my friend Cody Colston, and he's got his Virginia Textile solar wood kiln, and we're drying some lumber that we just cut up. Cody, why'd we put those boards in between the stack of lumber there? What are those called?
Well, they're called stickers, sticks, stickers, whatever. Their purpose is to separate the layers of the board to allow airflow between the stack. If you didn't have those stickers, the board would never dry when they're laying what they call dead stacked, face to face. They would probably mold and mildew before they ever dried. There's three factors in drying lumber, three elements. One is heat, in this case from the sun. The other is relative humidity. That's not absolute humidity, Jason, that's relative humidity. And the third is airflow. Low relative humidity, high heat, and high airflow leads to faster drying. In this case, drying red oak, some of it 1 5/8 thick, fairly thick. We don't want it fast drying. We want it to, the humidity, especially early on, the humidity to stay high inside the kiln. I just went around back, closed all 4 vents. We'll run the fan to bring air between the layers, and the sun will provide the heat. But with the vents closed, that won't let the moisture, the kiln is not airtight or vapor tight, so some moisture will escape, but not as much as if I had the vents open. So hopefully this oak will dry slow enough that we'll get a good product out of it in the end. Nice, flat, no warp, no checks would be ideal.
What happens if it dries too fast?
Well, like I said, it will. Wood dries from the outside in. In other words, it can look dry on the outside, feel dry. You can check it with a moisture meter. It will even give a dry reading, in a low moisture content reading. But you cut it open, and the core will still be wet. That is a moisture imbalance where you have and you always have a moisture imbalance when you dry, because like I say, it dries from the outside first. But the thing you want to do is try to limit that imbalance and then condition it, which is, in my opinion, the beauty of a solar kiln, is that at night time, I've got a timer, 24-hour timer on the fans. I'll set it where they'll shut off right after dark. About an hour after dark, the sun is down, the temperature starts cooling down, and humidity, the relative humidity, rises inside the kiln. So it's really mimicking the same thing that happens when you're air drying. At nighttime, generally in the evening the wind will lay, but at nighttime you lose your heat source, and humidity rises. It's in most places, but right here it's almost 100% outside at daylight. And so that same thing happens inside the solar kiln. As it cools off, the relative humidity rises, and it conditions that lumber. The extremely dry outside, it reabsorbs moisture, so it self-corrects that moisture imbalance. Moisture imbalance just sets up stress in a wood. When wood dries, when the cells get below the fiber saturation point, around 30%, they start shrinking. And when you got one part of the wood drying, shrinking, and the other part maintaining its shape, then that introduces stress into the wood, and that stress, as everybody knows, can be so great that it'll actually tear itself apart. That's what checks, case hardening, that all comes from a drying imbalance. And there's some imbalance in any method of drying wood. Like I say, the trick is, or the goal is, to limit that imbalance and to correct it routinely. we'll say the oak has a very low safe drying rate. Red oak, southern red oak, around 3.5% moisture loss per day. So that's very low compared to say like walnut, which is around 8.2%, I think. Walnut is really easy to dry. You can dry it fast without any major degrade. Oak is not that way. Oak is any of the oaks is one of the harder woods to dry. And Dr. Wingert, Eugene Wingert, when he designed his first solar kiln at Virginia Tech, it's designed for safely drying red oak. The solar panels on top, collectors, 1 square foot of lumber, or I'm sorry, 1 square foot of solar collector for 10 board feet of lumber is the ratio he used to safely dry red oak. If solar collector is bigger than that, you can cover part of it up. It doesn't have to be up that size. I built this kiln per that ratio, but it doesn't have to be. You just cover up your solar collector if it's too large, or if you only have a partial load in a kiln. Like I say, that collector is up there is designed for a full kiln load, which we really don't have right now. It looks like it, but these were extremely wide boards, 20 inches or better in some of them. So they're stacked 1 board wide in there. So the kiln is designed for 36-inch wide stack. It's not that wide, so it's not a full kiln. The one thing that'll help us on that is that it's cooler weather now. It's fall of the year here in East Texas, and the sun is pretty hot right here, sitting on this black door, but not hot as far as the kiln. So I'm pretty hopeful that even without covering the solar collector or partially covering it, it still should not get too hot in there. Especially keeping the vents closed, let the humidity stay high early on. Well, once the wood gets below that 30%, 28% moisture content throughout, that's where the individual cells start shrinking. Then you can dry it a lot faster without any. Most of the degrade takes place in the first 30% of the moisture loss.
So what is the optimum percentage of moisture in lumber for an interior project?
It varies slightly depending on region. Here in East Texas, we're several hundred miles removed from the Gulf. It's probably, I've looked it up, about 8% is ideal. I usually try to dry it to 7%. It will regain moisture. As everybody knows, wood is hygroscopic. It will lose moisture and regain moisture depending on the relative humidity. The heat just speeds that process up. The hotter it is, the easier the moisture can flow within the wood, out and back in. But around 8% here. If you're on the coastal region, especially the Gulf Coast with the higher humidities, 10%. If you're say in the Mountain West, with Denver, Colorado, they can see humidity as low as 1%. So obviously you'd want something quite a bit drier for out there, from in the 6% range or whatever. The ideal target moisture content for your lumber is in the middle of the EMC, the equilibrium moisture content for its destination. In most modern homes, heated and air conditioned, well insulated, well sealed. In the wintertime, they're going to run 6%, 5%, maybe less moisture content. You let a good norther come through here. I know in my house, you walk across any carpet and touch a metal doorknob, you will get a surprise. That's because the relative humidity is so low inside.
So how long for this stack of lumber do you think it'll take to dry it down to 7%?
At this time of year, that's another point I want to make, and I've read this just recently from Dr. Wingert.
Okay, so for a stack of lumber this size, How long do you think it'll take you to get it dried down to that 7% moisture content you were talking about?
It's these logs laid out for a while. The sapwood is actually spalted on them. It makes pretty lumber. Still very solid, but it does have some spot lines in it. So some drying has taken place. If you were looking at green, red oak, green to me means no drying has taken place. It don't matter how long it's been cut down. If it was cut down a year ago, as long as it was hermetically sealed, it'd still be green because it'd still have the moisture. But anyway, if no drying had taken place, and you've got, I'd have to look it up, but if you're just figuring the 100% moisture content on this lumber, and a lot of lumber, a lot of timber can run well over 100%, even over 200% moisture content. It's by weight, it's not by volume. It's how it's figured. So if it's 100% at 3% moisture content per day, it takes 33 days. Of course, if the moisture content is higher than that, it'll take longer. If it's lower than that, it won't take as long. But I would think that in a month of days like this, it would probably be around the 8% range. Think about, we're not going to have a month of days just like this. We're going to have some cloudy, rainy weather, so especially this time of year. So 2 months would be a rough guesstimate for late fall, early winter here in East Texas.
Okay, let's say I wanted to air dry my lumber outside. Can I get my lumber down to that 8% moisture content that you said would be optimal for this area by air drying it outside?
Not in East Texas, not in most places of the United States. The average equilibrium moisture content for the United States is 11%, 11 to 12%. I'd say the desert Southwest, Mountain West, yes, you probably could get it down to, with heat and time, it would get down to that 8%. Here, about 12% is about as dry as it's going to get, and it's going to take a long time to get that. I'm not sure it would even be at 12% in a year. That's for 4/4 stock. These inch and 5/8 boards, no, they would not be anywhere near 12% at the core in a year's time. So it depends on where you live, and depends on the environment that the finished piece is going in. Since I started building this kiln and did a lot of studying on drying, I realized, and there is one in the back, you can't see it from here, but behind that plenum up there, there is a thermal hygrometer. It reads temperature and relative humidity, so I know what it is. I did have it in my shop. I moved it out here to the kiln. Most woodworkers don't have one. They have no clue what the relative humidity is in their shop or even in their home. Looking online at the weather service is not going to tell you, because the relative humidity between here and downtown Tyler could be significantly different. So I would advise, if you're going to be serious about building fine furniture, wood with joinery that'll stay tight, with panels that'll stay straight, won't warp, you really should know what the relative humidity is in your, not only in your shop but in your home too, wherever the lumber is going to go. And if you know that relative humidity, you can know the ultimate ultimately how dry the wood will get. There's a very accurate charts available online. All you have to do is look at the relative humidity, average relative humidity and temperature, say 70 degrees, and it will tell you what the moisture content, the EMC, will be. Just for instance, 7% lumber at 70 degrees, that's about a 35% relative humidity. So that's the number you really want to shoot for. Now, most of us hobbyists and not big time furniture builders, you know, everybody that's not a Sam Maloof or a James Krenoff, you know, we don't have the time, the money, or really the inclination to have a humidity controlled storage building for our lumber. We're lucky to have the lumber, period, much less have a place like that to put it. So what you can do, like Stretch, when we take this lumber out, if it's at 7% or 8%, if he wants to maintain that, but wherever he's storing the lumber is a higher relative humidity than what the EMC is for that, he could wrap it in visqueen and plastic, tape the end of the duct tape, and it will maintain that moisture content. No air, moisture-laden air can get in. No air can get out. So whatever the moisture content is when it's wrapped up, it's going to maintain that. And if it's 7-8%, it's not going to mildew because there's not enough moisture there for that.
Great, thank you, Cody. We'll have links to plans to build a Virginia Tech kiln if you would want to do that, and maybe some of those links to some of those charts that you mentioned in the description of the video. Thanks a lot.
Enjoy it.
Alright, we got the kiln all buttoned up and closed up. This is what it looks like closed. You can see the clear solar collector on the top. That's just a clear plastic paneling. That's it.